Hi, I'm Jennifer, a 38-year-old single mother dedicated to my 10-year-old son John. It was a typical sunny afternoon, and John was out riding his bike just a couple of blocks from our house. The neighborhood was quiet, the kind of place where you'd never expect disaster to strike. "Be back by dinner and be careful," I had called out as he sped off, helmet securely on, his face lit up with a big grin. An hour later, I was in the kitchen when my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. "Is this Jennifer? Your son's been in an accident," the voice on the other end said, panic clear in their tone. My heart plummeted. Grabbing my keys, I bolted out the door. When I arrived at the scene, chaos unfolded before me. Ambulance sirens wailing, neighbors gathered in shock, and there, in the middle of it all, was John, lying on the ground, clearly in pain. I rushed to his side, barely aware of the police trying to control the scene. A paramedic was tending to him. "He's got multiple injuries. We need to get him to the hospital right away," they said as they loaded him into the ambulance. It was then that I noticed my father's car nearby, its front bumper crumpled. My stomach twisted, a mix of fear and fury rising within me. At the hospital, the full scope of John's injuries was revealed. Multiple fractures and a traumatic brain injury. As the doctors prepared him for surgery, my father, John, appeared, disheveled, reeking of alcohol. "It was just an accident, Jennifer. I didn't see him. He came out of nowhere," he mumbled, his voice shaky. "Just an accident. You were drinking and driving, and you hit your own grandson," I snapped, my voice trembling with anger. "Jennifer, you know how the police blow things out of proportion. We can sort this out as a family. No need to get the law involved," he whispered urgently. I glared at him, my voice rising. "Sort this out? John could have died because of your recklessness. I'm not covering this up, I'm pressing charges." His expression hardened. "You do that, and you're no daughter of mine." He stormed off, leaving me to face the harsh reality of my decision. Pressing charges would mean tearing our family apart. But as I watched my son being wheeled into surgery, I knew I had no other choice. His safety, his life, meant more than any family loyalty. "Mom, it's going to be okay," John whispered weakly, trying to offer me a brave smile as they took him away. I squeezed his hand. "I know, honey. I'm here, and I'm going to make sure of it." The fallout was immediate. My phone buzzed nonstop with calls and texts from family members urging me to reconsider. "Family comes first, Jennifer." "He's your father," my aunt pleaded over the phone. "He nearly killed John," I shot back, my resolve hardening with every conversation. My mother, Martha, arrived at my door, her eyes red with a mix of anger and desperation. "How could you do this to us?" "To your father," she demanded. "He did this to himself, Mom, and to John. I'm protecting my son." "That's what a mother does," I replied, my voice firm. "He's disowning you, rewriting his will as we speak. Is it worth it, losing your family?" she asked, her voice trembling. "If it means justice for John, yes, it's worth it," I said, standing my ground, though her words stung. As my family turned their backs on me, I found unexpected support in my neighbor Linda. She became my pillar, bringing meals, sitting with me late into the night, listening to my worries. "You're doing the right thing, Jennifer. It's not easy, but it's right," she reassured me as we watched the sunset one evening. "I just wish it didn't cost so much," I admitted, feeling the weight of my family's estrangement. "Some costs are necessary. You're teaching John to stand up for what's right. That's priceless," Linda said with a comforting smile. Days turned into weeks, and the tension only grew. My father made one last attempt to change my mind, calling me with a cold, distant voice. "Last chance, Jennifer. Drop the charges or you're out of the will. Think of your future." "My son's future is my only concern," I replied firmly. "Do what you have to, Dad. I've made my choice." As I hung up, I felt a strange mix of liberation and loss. I was free from his manipulation, but at the cost of my family ties. It was a high price, but looking at John, slowly getting better each day, I knew I had made the right choice. With Linda's help, the community rallied around us, organizing support for John's medical bills and offering the emotional comfort my family no longer provided. Her kindness reminded me that family isn't always defined by blood, but by the bonds we choose to nurture and the people who stand by us when life gets hard. As the legal proceedings against my father unfolded, each session in the courtroom felt like a battle. His lawyer painted him as a regretful grandfather who made one unfortunate mistake. It was an accident, a tragic lapse in judgment, the lawyer argued. But I stood my ground, my voice unwavering. He chose to drink and drive. That decision almost cost my son his life. It's not just a mistake, it's a crime. The tension in the courtroom was palpable. The prosecutor, a stern-faced woman with a reputation for being tough, methodically laid out the evidence. Traffic camera footage, witness testimonies, and John's medical reports. Reliving the accident through each presentation was painful, but it was necessary. Outside the courtroom, public opinion was divided. On social media, some people supported my decision to hold my father accountable, while others accused me of tearing our family apart. "He's family, you should have handled this privately," read one comment. Another countered, "Justice has no familial boundaries. She's brave for standing up." Meanwhile, John's recovery was a slow, grueling process. Every small step forward in physical therapy was a victory, and his resilience became my beacon. Watching him struggle yet persist gave me strength I didn't know I had. "You're getting stronger every day, John," I encouraged during one of his therapy sessions as he grimaced through the pain, determined. "I want to get better, Mom, so we can ride bikes again," he said with a brave smile. One day, after an exhausting court session, I came home to find him trying to walk without his crutches. My heart leaped with both fear and pride. "Careful, John," I called out. "I can do it, Mom, look." His smile as he took those tentative steps made all the turmoil worth it. Our story caught the attention of a local news reporter who requested an interview. Reluctant but realizing it might help sway public opinion, I agreed. "Why go public with this? Why not forgive and move on?" The reporter asked during the interview. "This isn't about forgiveness. It's about accountability and protecting others from the same pain," I explained, hoping my words would resonate with those still on the fence. As the trial neared its end, the weight of the potential outcomes hung heavily over me. But regardless of the verdict, I knew I had done everything possible for John. This fight in court wasn't just about legal justice, it was about affirming our values, about showing John that standing up for what's right is the only way to live, no matter the personal cost. "I'm proud of you, Mom," John whispered one night as I tucked him in. His words echoed in the quiet room, filling me with a deep sense of pride. His simple, honest words fortified me. No matter what the verdict, we had already won the more significant battle. We had held onto our integrity, our bond. Those were victories no verdict could ever take away. The final day of the trial arrived with a heavy air. The courtroom was packed, the tension almost unbearable as we waited for the judge's decision. Despite the overwhelming evidence we presented, the defense had exploited every legal loophole, casting doubt wherever they could. The evidence presented is circumstantial at best. My client deeply regrets his actions, but this was an accident, not a deliberate act of harm, my father's lawyer concluded, giving a confident nod to the judge. As the judge began to speak, my heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear his words. While there is no doubt that Mr. J's actions were reckless, the burden of proof for intent has not been sufficiently met. His words stung like a physical blow. "Not guilty." The gavel fell, its sound shattering my hopes for legal justice. My father, looking relieved but not happy, avoided my gaze as he quickly left the courtroom. "Can you believe this?" I whispered to my friend Linda, who sat beside me, her hand gripping mine in silent support. "It's not right, Jennifer. John deserved better," she said, her voice tight with frustration. As we exited the courthouse, reporters swarmed around, their cameras clicking, questions flying like arrows. "How do you feel about the verdict?" one asked, his microphone thrust in my direction. "This isn't the end. Justice comes in many forms, and today's decision isn't where the story concludes," I said, my voice steady, though inside I felt broken. At home, John sensed the somber mood and tried to comfort me. "It's okay, Mom, we know the truth." "Yes, we do," I said, squeezing his hand and forcing a smile, though the disappointment gnawed at me. That night, unable to sleep, I scrolled aimlessly through social media, where heated discussions about our case raged on. Some expressed outrage at the verdict, while others blamed me for the family fallout. I turned off my phone, feeling more isolated than ever, but still determined to move forward. Weeks passed, and life settled into a new rhythm. John's recovery progressed, and his resilience inspired me daily, But the shadow of the trial and my father's betrayal lingered like a dark cloud over our healing. Then one rainy evening, Linda knocked on my door, her face unusually grave. "Have you heard about your father?" "No, what happened?" I braced myself for more bad news. "There's been an accident. He was driving, still drinking, and crashed." "It's bad, Jennifer. He's in the hospital." The news hit me like a punch to the gut. Despite everything, he was still my father. A confusing mix of concern and a vindictive sense of poetic justice washed over me. I sat down, trying to process the whirlwind of emotions inside me. "Are you going to see him?" Linda asked gently. I paused, considering. "No, his path is his own now. I have to focus on what's best for John and me." Days turned into weeks, and news came that my father's injuries had left him unable to walk, his life forever altered. His financial situation had deteriorated too, with medical bills piling up, compounded by a lack of insurance due to his drinking habits. It seemed fate had delivered its own harsh verdict. "Mom, are you okay?" John's voice pulled me from my thoughts one evening as we sat watching the sunset. "I am, honey. It's just been a lot to think about. But you know what? I've realized something important through all of this." "What's that?" "That we're strong, and we can handle anything as long as we have each other. And sometimes justice isn't something you get, it's something you find within yourself." John nodded, understanding far more than any child his age should. We spent the rest of the evening talking about the future, about all the things we still wanted to do and see. It was a conversation filled with hope, not despair. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding our lives. I started a support group for parents going through similar situations, using our story to help others. The community rallied around us, their support a stark contrast to the abandonment I felt from my own family. Life had come full circle in a way I never expected. While the legal system may have failed us, life's balance hadn't. My father's fate, brought on by his own choices, was a testament to that. For John and me, every new day was a step away from past hurts and a step toward a future built on our terms, defined by our resilience and fortified by true justice, the kind that doesn't come from a courtroom, but from the strength to keep moving forward despite life's obstacles. The story of Jennifer and John has reached its conclusion, but the questions it raises still linger. What do you think of Jennifer's decision not to visit her father after his accident? Was her choice to focus solely on her and John's well-being justified, or should she have forgiven her father despite the pain he caused? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.